All right, guys, we are back and live. We had some technical difficulties. We'll just say that when someone left to leave, they hit the really big red button. And, there's a whole comedy skit on that somewhere. So I just wanted to thank everyone who is now attempting to rejoin us live. Alex will come back in here momentarily. Coach, we haven't really thrown over to you to get your take on what's going on with the Jags-Raiders game. I know you liked many of the defensive moves, I think, that the Jags made in the offseason. I certainly thought that they did a pretty darn good job there. Anything you'd like to add or ask in addition to kind of some of the other comments that have already been made? I mean, Jordan's really given us some wonderful detail on the Jags so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually had a question and get his take on how he felt about them drafting Trayvon Walker when you already had Kayvon Chase on in-house. Because I really feel like between Josh Allen, Kayvon, and Trayvon, they all have similar skill sets and similar body types and similar abilities to be edge rushers in a sense. Now, Trayvon is a little bit more bulky in the sense where he may be able to kick inside a little bit, but with running the traditional 34 base, how do you feel about them drafting Trayvon when you could have maybe went secondary, hypothetically, when that's to me, that's an area of need more so than interior or in the front seven? So how did you feel about that first draft pick?
So to put it bluntly, Kayvon Chason has not developed to this point in his career to the point where you would feel comfortable with him as a starting outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense. Trayvon has a good 30 pounds on him at least. Even when you look at Josh Allen compared to Trayvon or compared to Kayvon Chason, there's a clear gap in the frame and the structure of their muscle structure. And I just don't know that Kayvon is at the point where you can feel comfortable with him, even in a heavy rotation. So I do not have any problem with where they went in terms of trying to address edge. And they perceived Trayvon Walker as this unicorn type talent who, if they can get him to develop that outside pass rush, the one-on-one moves, then there's nothing he can't do. And I have to say, from everything I saw from him at Georgia and from everything I'm seeing from him so far in camp, I'd have to agree with them. But the question still remains, will the pass rush skill set from an individual one-on-one standpoint, you got to go beat the tackle, are you going to get it done? Is that going to manifest for Trayvon Walker? Because he can set the edge. He's a really good chase player as a weak side defender. He can drop in coverage. So he fits the 3-4 outside linebacker role well. And yeah, you mentioned he can kick inside. I'm sure they'll have him do that at some point as well. But they have been focusing exclusively at outside linebacker for Trayvon, which I think has been good for him. Because at Georgia, he moved around from whether it was 5-tech, 3-tech, nose tackle, off-ball linebacker. He was all over the place.
He did it all.
And now they're giving him a more focused role in this defense to start his career strictly at outside linebacker. And he and Josh Allen, they have been working with the outside linebacker coach, Bill Shuey, off to the side pretty heavily in every single practice, dating all the way back to OTAs and rookie minicamp. So they're putting the work in, and he's putting the work in to try to make sure that he does develop that outside pass rush. But it still remains to be seen whether it's going to pop off on Sundays yet this fall.
Okay. So the follow-up.
Well, you mentioned. Sorry.
What do you think they do with Kayvon? Because he is being paid I believe he's a first-round draft pick, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
right? So he's being paid first-round draft pick. What do you think they do with him?
I think they try to develop him. I don't think at this point he has had the best coaching. Certainly not in year one. He was under Todd Wash, which is a 4-3 cover 3 defense. He was really miscast in that situation. And then last year, a lot of players failed to develop in Jacksonville, as we all know. So there's a chance that the guy does take a leap forward in year 3. He was a first-round pick for a reason. And I do think a 3-4 defense where you're going to have games up front stunting. I think that most of his college production from a sack standpoint did come from him stunting inside. So potentially you could see that in a rotational type of role. I do think he is the third outside linebacker on the team right now. But at this point, he's going to have to go out and show this preseason and throughout the rest of camp that he deserves to be in front of some of the less heralded players like Jameer Jones, Rashad Berry, and Wyatt Ray on the edge.
Okay, because I envision if he does develop any type of skill set, y'all can have a three-headed pass rushing monster on pass downs that would allow you to, maximize your ability to get to the quarterback. So I'm hoping that he does pan out.
Yeah, and they've also brought in Arden Key from San Francisco to be an interior pass rusher. Obviously, Raiders will know all about Arden Key, but San Francisco really kind of unlocked him, kicking him inside last year as a rotational pass rusher. And you can't forget about DeJuan Smoot, who has kind of been a starter for the Jaguars at edge for the last couple of years. He's now got the ability to kick inside as a rotational pass rusher as well. So there is some pass rush depth. I don't know how much pass rush depth there is on the edge because I think Smoot and Key in that 3-4 defense are playing more on the interior with a hand in the dirt.
Gotcha.
You mentioned Zay Jones earlier, and I know you kind of blew past him. Like, let me tell you something. Zay Jones, I wish him well, except when you guys played us.
Right.
But you're going to find that Zay Jones is he's a wide receiver too, right? Or 3. Okay.
Yeah, I would say in Jacksonville right now, he's the wide receiver 3 in terms of who is going to get the most targets, but he is lining up at X, and he is the guy that they're sending deep. They're trying to get the deep shots on the outside. So
and that's what he does. And see that overtime game from last year that we played against the Ravens. Zay Jones. Okay, the guy will step up. He will step up. You got a little better than you think you do with him. And the guy's
I'm a fan of Zay Jones. I just think putting him in an X wide receiver role, you're expecting a jump from what you've seen from him in the past. He hasn't done that at a sustained high level to this point in his career, in my opinion, at least. But I think you've seen the flashes. You've seen the connection deep with Trevor. And he's also a guy that I know he'll block his ass off. He'll do the dirty work for you. And we actually had some fun the other day. He was playing catch with Evan Ingram off to the side, hit me quick with a little pitch. He was like, I was just trying to make sure that you could catch the ball if you're going to write about my hands. So he's got a lot of fun personality as well, too. So that was a fun little tidbit from training camp.
Nice.
He's also a great special teamer. He's a great special teamer. He plays defense on special teams, and he's awesome at it.
I don't know if they're going to have him on special teams this year with, being a starting receiver, but yeah, it's good to have that in your back pocket for sure.
I actually have a question kind of for both you, Jordan, and Daniel, but more on what you'd like to see of your team against the other coming up tomorrow. So, knowing that there's going to be limited starter reps, this is really an opportunity for all of us, and particularly Daniel and Jordan, for you to see the 2s, 3s, and then to see if maybe on the 4th string you can start seeing some guys start climbing that depth chart with this first game. Jordan, I'll start with you. Who are you really interested in seeing that isn't necessarily a starter play in the game, and who do you think might be a standout that, say, those of us that are joining us from the AFC West are maybe not familiar with?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll see if he ends up continuing his performance from the practice field onto the game field tomorrow night. But Jaguars 5th-round running back Snoop Connor, he's going to get the start. A guy out of Ole Miss, a big bruiser, 5'10", 220 pounds, same kind of size profile as James Robinson. But with Etienne and Robinson not playing in this one, he's going to get the start. He's going to get some carries, and he's looked explosive and quicker than I thought he would as a guy who was primarily a short yardage back for the Rebels. Picked up a lot of touchdowns in their offense, but we'll see how he performs. He's had a really good camp so far. On the opposite side of the ball, Chad Muma, I thought would come into the NFL and be an immediate starter, but because of the Jaguars going out and get Foye Oluokun in free agency and then drafting Devin Lloyd in the 1st round, Muma doesn't have a place in the starting lineup, but he's a player who I expect to be out there quite a bit and play at a high level for the Jaguars as a 3rd-round pick who I had a 2nd-round grade on out of Wyoming.
Yeah.
Awesome. And Danny, what about you? What are you interested in seeing kind of the Raiders side of things against the Jags. I mean, this is really an opportunity for the kind of tier 2 and down to show out, and these are games where careers are made.
Well, we have a receiver who was on the practice squad last year. I want to see how he developed. His name's Dylan Stoner. Okay. I want to see if this guy can move up the depth charts to where he's getting reps, because I really want a Raiders jersey that says Stoner on the back. Okay, just kidding. No, actually, I'd like to see how our backup, Malcolm Kuntz, our edge rusher, I want to see how he developed, because I want to see him go in there and wreak havoc. The guy didn't get a lot of reps, but he has really high percentage of sacks for those little bit of reps he got. I want to see if he's jumped his game up and ready to take over for whoever.
Interesting. And we're nearing the end of kind of Jordan's time with us here, wanting to be respectful. He has another commitment afterwards that he has to get to, and has spent a few extra moments here with us.
Yeah, we're all right here for a little bit.
Yeah, okay, we are. All right,
you
fantastic.
got one question for you.
I was going to throw it to you, Alex, if he had the extra time. I did want to be mindful.
Appreciate it. Kind of just a catch it out of my own curiosity, and kind of a catch-22 to what we've been talking about up to this point. I mean, I know you mentioned they made a big emphasis, on stopping the run, or at least that's what it appears to be with those additions. So I was just curious as to, what worries you the most. What unit, offense or defense, worries you the most going into this season that you wish they would have made a better effort to kind of improve?
That's a great question. I don't look at any specific unit outside of kicker, because they do have quite an issue going on at kicker right now. Josh Lambo
get beat up by the coach, man.
Right. Yeah. Josh Lambo was a really quality kicker until he had that hip injury and the whole debacle last year. And so now they have Ryan Santoso, who's like a 6'5", 250-pound kicker, got a monster leg, but they're working on the accuracy. And then they also brought in Elliott Fry, who I think you're probably aware of. I think a lot of fan bases around the league are familiar with Elliott Fry. I think he's been on 9 teams over the last 2 years or so. But I am worried about the kickers. But when you look at offense or defense, I'm not specifically worried about many of the position groups as a whole. I wasn't stoked about them keeping Rayshon Jenkins in as a starting strong safety after last year, but this is a guy who's come on in camp, and he's looked a lot better than he did, a lot more like he did for the Chargers when he was there before coming over to Jacksonville. And he's shown leadership. I think a lot of these players, you're going to see a jump in play just from, again, Urban Meyer and that debacle not being around anymore. But I would say I was a little disappointed that instead of aggressively pursuing like a Teron Armstead, you went and signed Cam Robinson to an $18 million deal per year, where he's been a slightly above average left tackle in the NFL. I do think he's going into his prime. I do think he's slightly improved every year, but you could have paid Teron Armstead less than you paid Cam Robinson, and that guy gives you a ceiling of a top 5 left tackle in the NFL, maybe a top 3 left tackle in the NFL. So I would have more aggressively pursued an upgrade at left tackle. Certainly, I think that would be, and that's nothing against Cam Robinson. I think Cam Robinson is a fine player. I like his demeanor. I like his attitude. He's becoming a leader. It's just when you're looking at the whole picture, I would have done that, and I also would have tried to pursue a potential long-term X receiver number 1 at some point, whether it was free agency or the draft. They did not draft a single receiver. They did bring in Evan Ingram, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, obviously, but they didn't draft a single receiver. And I think I'm a huge Devin Lloyd fan, but they traded up from 33 to 27, giving up a 4th-round pick, a 6th-round pick, and obviously the 33rd pick to go get a linebacker, a position that's devalued across the league. Of course, I think there's plenty of value in Devin Lloyd, but could you have stayed there and drafted a George Pickens or drafted someone else who has the potential to be a legit long-term starter on the outside? that would be another question. I'm not critical because I am a huge Devin Lloyd fan, but how will that play out? How will those careers compare in a few years? George Pickens, I know, is already making headlines in Pittsburgh.
I know. I wanted the Chiefs to draft him. I was real big on Pickens to KC, but I'm not upset.
Yeah, Sky Moore is a great quality receiver as well.
I'm not upset with Sky Moore at all. He's putting together some real nice route tape.
See, I don't get the opportunities to ask this much because I don't know many Jags fans. So, but I love the one guy you have in your receiver room by the name of Laviska Shenault. Like his name is just it just does it for me. I don't know why. I love that kid for his name and name only. Now, granted, he can play, but what are your feeling on Laviska Shenault in your wide receiver room going into the season?
Yeah, he's had a really good camp. I think at this point he's wide receiver 4 behind Zay, Christian, and Marvin. And he's going to be used in a lot of creative ways. You know, Doug Peterson is very adept at getting the ball in skill players' hands quickly. You'll see him, in the backfield. You'll see him catching screen passes, and having Zay Jones and a guy like Laquan Treadwell as well, who can both go block their asses off at the receiver position, is going to be critical for springing some of those outside plays, those quick game things. But I think Laviska has an opportunity to rebound after a year where he dropped way too many passes. That had never been an issue in his playing career. Going back to his rookie year, to his time at Colorado, never dropped passes. But last year, of course, he did. So he'll have to prove that his hands can be reliable this year. But I think the new coaching staff likes what they've seen from him, and he will have a role in this offense for sure.
Awesome.
I mean, he was like kind of a hybrid number 1, number 2 option for most of last year, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when DJ Chark went down with the injury in week 4, that kind of forced Viska into a different role than he was expected to play and preparing to play. And I don't think he was ready for that role. And he had some very clutch moments and some big performances. He just put the ball on the ground too often. And hopefully you'll see him improve on that this year. But I definitely don't think he's ready to be like the number 1 outside receiver. He's got a unique skill set, right? He's 6'1", 220, 225 pounds. Probably is best in the slot and just getting the ball quickly into his hands.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I was going to say. He to me is a great slot guy with his blend of size, speed, and potential durability just because of his build. So many of the slot guys are smaller, shiftier, but then they end up getting dinged up. Like all the really top tier slot guys that you think of are kind of the shorter, more slender guys, shifty, but short, slender. And they always seem to have those major injuries near the back end of their career, or they end up with that one big one that kind of knocks them clear out for 5-6 games at the end. So I do think this is a great question because we've all answered actually this for our teams in terms of what the over-under predictions are. Where do you think you guys stand on the over-under that's up there for the 6-game wins? Do you think that Peterson alone will elevate that team, or are you kind of more in the conservative side where you're saying, hey, we need to take steps here, and this is probably the first stepping stone of several?
Yeah, it's definitely a completely different program with expectations should be different. I know their expectations internally are playoffs or bust. They're not looking at this as a rebuilding year. They're looking at this as we have the pieces in place to get the job done on both sides of the football. And with Doug Peterson coming in and helping Trevor Lawrence out, developing him, they expect to compete for the playoffs, no doubt about it. I would take the over on 6 games. I would not take them as a 500 or better team. I think they'll be in the 7 to 8 win category, likely. And they could go on a roll. Like Trevor Lawrence has a superior right arm. He is one of the best young quarterbacks that has entered the league in a long time. There's more weapons around him. You're in a better scheme. I think the defense is looking much improved, but there is so much newness. There is so much healing that had to take place from last year. So I don't think they're going to be quite ready to really push for the playoffs, but I do think they will. They'll at least get to that 6-win mark. I'd probably have them at 7 or 8.
Okay.
What do you got
So
for?
do-
Oh, my bad.
Go for
So
it.
do you guys play the Colts this year?
Twice.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Those are wins, right?
Are they?
In Jacksonville,
and
they
thank
have
you for
been
that.
wins.
Thank you for that last year with the Colts.
Absolutely, yeah. And Jacksonville, they have been wins. The Jags have beaten the Colts every year in Jacksonville since 2014. Really an unbelievable
remarkable.
stat.
The Jags that's because they have the real Josh Allen.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
2 wins, man.
oh.
Yeah, it's been
That's
incredible how
So,
poor the
so
franchise
guys,
has been, but how good they've been at home against the Colts.
yeah,
that's great.
it's unbelievable.
That's how those interdivision games work, though.
Yep.
Yeah, and they haven't beaten Houston, the Jaguars, since 2017.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
Wow.
unbelievable.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Definitely.
Colts have had such a superior running game these past few years too.
Superior roster, period.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they can't seem to get over the hump with the Jags. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but you
think it's
guys have
bizarre.
improved, so you own the Colts. You've improved. You own the Colts.
I'll take it.
I saw a tweet that it said that Trevor Lawrence is what they envisioned Carson was being when Doug Peterson was in Philly. Do you agree with that?
I do get that train of thought. Like, you looked at what you thought Carson Wentz could be and what he did look like during his season where he was on pace to be the MVP of the NFL in year 2. And he was delivering strikes all over the field. He was using his mobility. And can Trevor Lawrence do both of those things and do it at a higher level?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Let's see. Last of all, I know we're trying to wrap up your time, but since we were on a little over/under kick, I wanted to get your thoughts on, what's the over/under of Trevor Lawrence having 15 interceptions this season,
That's good. He had 17 last year,
12 touchdowns.
12 touchdowns. Yep. I'll take the under. He's taken care of the ball really well in camp so far. He's had 2 interceptions. One of them was, of course, an Evan Ingram drop.
Yeah. That's what I've seen on my Twitter. Is the only Jags news I get is of Evan Ingram dropping something.
Yeah, and then he had another one that should have been picked by Rayshon Jenkins, but Rayshon wasn't able to hold on to it through the ground. So those are those are the only 2 turnover-worthy plays he's had in all of camp. 125 throws that I've tracked so far. So I think he will take care of the ball better. I think he'll have less than 15 interceptions. And I do think it will be probably 10 to 15, but I'll go with the under on 15.
Okay.
He's going to push the ball. Like he's a guy that will take risks down the field.
Well, that's what people with good arms do. So it's like why they get drafted high.
Indeed.
I think this has been great because these are the types of insights we just simply don't get when we follow our teams in the AFC West, and it's super important to have this type of information and knowledge coming into a game so you know certain players to look out for, certain insights that we just obviously aren't going to have. Now, on the last note here, Jordan, week 8 of the season, we may or may not be on speaking terms depending on what happens. But I would love to, extend an invite for whether it be a recorded small segment or something like that for you to jump on to discuss the whole London game, where it'll be the Broncos versus Jags.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be amazing. And I think by then we should have a pretty good idea of kind of where our teams are at that stage as well. See where injuries have taken us and kind of get a reasonable idea in terms of what we're doing both offensively and defensively. Before everyone runs away after losing all of the wonderful insight that Jordan has given them, Jordan, can you let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo. You can check out all my work at GenJag.com or check out our YouTube channel, which is GenJag as well. A lot of different content that I've been uploading, and I've been out there at training camp every day. So if you are interested in some Jaguars news, highly encourage you to check it out, GenJag.com, and you can follow me at Jordan DeLugo.
And quite a good percentage of our audience is on Twitter. Do you have Twitter handles they can find you?
Yeah, it's at Jordan DeLugo.
And what about your channel? Does it have a specific Twitter?
Oh, it's at Generation Jag. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Excellent. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So, guys, this is Jordan DeLugo of GenJag YouTube channel. I've subscribed already. I've subbed for a little bit now, incognito, but I have commented on a few videos. You may or may not have seen me in there.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, my profile picture is the beard in kind of profile mode. That's how you can pick me out on YouTube.
I'll watch out for it.
Yeah. So I wanted to thank you very much for coming on the show. Any questions that were missed for Jordan, you can leave them down below in the video here, and hopefully we'll bring Jordan back in when the Broncos play the Jags. We'll be able to get some of those questions answered. And Jordan, again, thank you so much for joining us today. Really, really loved the information today. I really, really love the info because it's, again, this type of football knowledge from other teams is just stuff that you can't find anywhere else. So thank you very much.
I was emailing Josh McDaniel while you were telling.
What's that?
When you were talking about your run defense, I started emailing Josh McDaniel.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, hopefully he has a better stint out there than he did last time in the AFC West.
You know he's already got
rounders usually do.
Daniel's already got wires planted and everything.
All right, well, Jordan, thank you very much.
Y'all have a great one. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.
All right. So Jordan, what do we do now?
Great guy. Absolutely great guy. Love his channel. Love his content. One of the best Jags channels I have been able to find, period, out there. It's really exceptional content. He typically does daily video or close to it, sometimes twice a day, depending on what comes out. Does some really good stuff there and gives you a lot of good information. And just really, really good stuff. So moving on, we have had some interesting news in the AFC and just generally speaking since our last show, guys. Maybe just going around, since we're now kind of into the thick of things. Coach, I'm going to start with you, and then Alex will jump over your way. What kind of issues and concerns have kind of cropped up on your rosters for camps and whatnot? Have you had injuries? Have you had anything interesting come out of it? Maybe just kind of go into a little bit of that detail.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say it's anything detrimental, but Derwin James is holding in, waiting on his contract to be finalized. He's due for an extension as he's on the last year of his deal. So we're just trying to get the logistics and the language worked out in that regard. I'm hearing positive things about it. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. So we're waiting for that so he can get into practice and put some pads on, which he likes to do. You know, he told people early on when he got into his rookie season, he liked to hit people. So I'm sure he's itching to do that, but he's just trying to, I guess you can say, hold off on the unnecessarily reps and contact until he gets his long-term deal done. So we're just waiting on that. But from a camp perspective, no major injuries, thank God. Knock on wood, that stays the way it is. So we haven't had any nicks or anything like that as of yet, and hopefully we don't. But you know, status quo as far as how we looked offensively last year, towards last year, towards this year. Offense is gelling pretty well. I like the chemistry between Herbert and Gerald Everett is developing well. Of course, the relationship with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams has been there. That's not going anywhere. But I wouldn't say the surprise of the camp so far offensively has been Josh Palmer, the kid we drafted 2 years ago from the SEC. I believe it was Tennessee. He's showing a lot of growth from a route running perspective in the separation and getting open in his one-on-one. So we've definitely liked that news coming out of camp in regards to his development. And I actually alluded to that on my Chargers training camp video that he was one of my breakout players and could ultimately supplant Jalen Guyton as our primary number 3 receiver if all breaks well. So I think that those particular ideas is definitely something that we should look out for. Also hearing that Zion Johnson, our first round draft pick, is stonewalling people in the interior. And we're talking, he had a nice fight with Sebastian Joseph Day, Jerry Tillery, Austin Johnson. So all the big-time name material guys we've had, they've been having battles in Zion, one more than he's lost. So that's a sign of the times and how we have hopefully struck gold in the last two drafts when it comes down to O-linemen and drafting them high. So I do like that. But the most interesting part of the whole entire camp, the first day, Keenan Allen told reporters that the whole entire defense of secondary beat the wide receivers up day one. So that lets me know that the secondary is off and running with the new additions we've had. I've seen some reps with J.C. Jackson going against Mike Williams. They had a good one-on-one battle. Keenan is going against Asante Samuel. That's been looking good. So overall, man, it's been a positive camp. And the guys that are only one or two guys on the PUP list, but everybody else has been pretty healthy and showing good signs of things to come.
Well, that's good news. You never want to hear major injuries, occur to any team. So I'm glad that, you're at full strength, and it's just kind of a matter of kind of getting your feet under you, so to speak. Right. So that's always a good thing. I mean, at the end of the day, having a full strength team on the field with all the right players there and watching a solid game of football is always what you like to see, because it really does elevate the game overall, especially when your quarterback has all the weapons around them. Yeah. Alex, with regards to the Chiefs, same sort of questions. Where you guys at so far?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously the biggest recent news is the return of the real OBJ, Orlando Brown Jr. But he's back. He's not holding out. He's going to play under the franchise tag. He's made comments to reporters. He wants to finish his career in KC. So, things are on the up and up in that regard. They also signed, King Dunlap not too long ago to bring in a little edge rush help.
You said King Dunlap. That gave me flashbacks to the lineman.
Yeah, not just like
the lineman King Dunlap.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to say that. Carlos Dunlap.
Yes.
Otherwise known as the King. But I view it similar as kind of the Melvin Ingram signing last year, just to get a little veteran presence and assistance off the edge. But from what I'm seeing, they're really trying to get Karlaftis around.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Really trying to get Karlaftis up to speed, and it at least initially appears they're going to try to really rely on him off the edge. So that's kind of exciting. As far as injuries, there really hasn't been anything, knock on wood, at this stage that has been alarming. Sky Moore did go down 2 days ago, but he's been seen back in practice, and nothing serious. I think the biggest injury they got right now is Rashad Fenton, but he's been out since camp started, and he's rehabbing, but no clear timetable on him. But at the same time, I don't think that's a bad thing, because they got so many young people in the secondary. I think you give some guys more reps at this stage to kind of figure out who's going to fit into the rotation, which is definitely something they need to figure out going through the preseason here.
All right.
Interesting. So that was a concern. I mean, even I saw Sky Moore's injury originally, and they were fearing the worst.
Yeah, I saw it. Was like, what's going on? Right after they were fearing the worst. With nothing but sick Sky Moore catches and just absolutely routing people. And then just like the next tweets I see are Sky Moore down.
Yeah.
And, you just never want to see that on any team, but that is an unfortunate nature of the beast with preseason. And in regardless of how much contact is going on or not.
Yeah. So OG, over to the Raiders, and then I'll take it home with the Broncos with just kind of the update from camp and whatnot. I know you guys have had probably a bit of a modified schedule given the Hall of Fame game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's, we all kind of expect that, right? But generally speaking, what's the overarching feedback been from camp and practices and that sort of thing, and also in terms of potential injuries if there has been any?
Well, there's a couple of injuries, but these aren't guys that I thought were going to be starters anyway. We lost a guy, Fackrell, free agent, defensive tackle. That one kind of bothered me a little bit. We lost another one today, but it was not a guy who I even consider was going to be close to starting. As far as the injury report, but we've been playing next man up football. That's it. As far as from camp, I'm hearing that there are certain players who are doing better. Everyone was worried, concerned about the right side of that line. Our right tackle, Alex Leatherwood. They're going to start him. He's obviously moved up a little better. And understand, we had our left tackle, Colton Miller. His first year, everybody in the Raiders wanted him drawn in quarters and pieces arrested. And his second year, you didn't hear it so much because he improved. The third year, everybody's screaming for him to get in the Pro Bowl. I think the same thing's happening with Leatherwood. I think he's improving. We're going to see what's happening there. Defensive tackle room. There's people we're still trying to get. I believe. Otherwise, everything else is starting to look solid. Our secondary is actually starting to sound a lot better, as from what I've heard. Also, I wanted to just say, Avatar, thank you for subscribing to my channel. Ed Winchell and Jack Kenneth, thanks for coming over here, bro. Yeah, I'm subbing for the captain. So I'm Lieutenant Dan. But otherwise,
that was just a smooth transition. Good for you.
It was.
No. But people are asking questions, and I got answers. They might not like them. No, but I'm actually looking forward to the season. The thing is, I'm actually looking forward to the next decade. We are the most powerful division in the NFL. Nobody can contest that. We are the most talented division in the NFL. Nobody can contest that. This division is going to be scary to everybody. Lieutenant Diane. But I look forward to this because I remember back in the old days, this division was competitive, and if you had to take on this division, you were scared.
It worked.
A lot of rules were put in place in the NFL because of this division in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Okay. We all got tough at the same time. Like, we are the neighborhood you don't want to go into.
That's a good one. I like it. That's right. That's dead on accurate. I like it.
Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, and there certainly were a bunch of rules put in, and I mean, the rivalries within the AFC West are legendary within the NFL. I mean, some of the top rivalries. Period.
Deeply
but
rooted.
I've been watching this game since 1973. It has never been like it is today.
And I'm here
for like we are the bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I think that's an apt thing. And although I'll maybe pull that back a little bit, I think in various stages of history, the AFC West teams have had one team that has been, in that upper tier and have been able to stay there. I think what sets us apart now is the fact that all four of our teams have kind of ascended at the same time.
I've seen it where there's always been a lot of two teams. I've seen times when there were two teams that were going at each other, two teams that were the best two teams.
Not four.
Not four.
All four. This is unprecedented.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Is you typically don't end up with all four teams in that division that kind of all elevate. You typically have one that seemingly ends up in a bit of a rebuild mode or some variation of it, and we're just not there right now. Yeah, no. It's all the switches have all been flipped for all four teams, and it's going to be really, really, really interesting to kind of see kind of what comes of it all. what worked, what didn't, and all that sort of thing. So I think it'll be really interesting. With regards to the Broncos,
somebody get Mad Dog Creevy out of the chat. He just said the NFC East is the most powerful division.
Who said that?
Probably the most powerful at being overhyped.
If you look at the very, very end of that, he couldn't even say that with a straight face.
Isn't he in Colorado? Is he in Colorado?
No, he's not.
Where's he at?
He's with cornfields.
I didn't know they legalized drugs in the cornfields.
Well, there is definitely alcohol to be made from corn. Let me tell you. But anyway,
let's talk about these Broncos.
Yeah. So with regards to the Broncos, it's been an interesting camp. We've seen offensive changes, a lot of the things that I've kind of talked about already on the podcast in terms of, outside zone style schemes and whatnot. I guess I may as well just lead off with what we probably have already heard. We've now had 2 of our players out with season-ending ACL injuries. You guys may have heard me on earlier pods talk about Demaria Crockett.
Mizzou guy.
Pardon me? The Mizzou guy, yeah. I always really liked him as a running back. I thought he was that interesting blend that I thought was going to kind of eventually, we might see if he could kind of step in for Melvin Gordon, who's kind of like a power / pass catching style tight running back rather. He's a bigger guy in the 220 to 230 range. But he tore his ACL, I believe actually the same day as Tim Patrick did.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Tim Patrick is, that big name wide receiver that most AFC West and now a good portion of the NFL is quite familiar with, because he's that real tall, fast dude that basically caught every single ball thrown his way and pissed you off.
Yeah.
Broke a lot of hearts.
How many times on this pod have we talked about Tim Patrick? I think at least once a week here.
Right.
Yeah, he really is that unique of a wide receiver, and I hate seeing the fact that he got hurt like that.
Mm.
I do hope that he bounces back. I do hope that he's able to recover. But ACLs are no joke, even though the surgeries have gotten better, even though that this has become more routine, and there's a regiment that is now kind of, follow steps 1 through 10.
I do not wish that upon anyone.
Not at all. That's why he's Mad Dog Creevy. That's why.
Wait a minute, the Commanders don't their
I know he couldn't even talk Commanders out without.
Commanders doesn't their stadium poop on the fans? Have you seen the sewage drops?
Literally and figuratively, right?
Right.
Yeah, but with regards to the Broncos, that's kind of the bad side of it for us, right? Is the injuries and whatnot, and it's going to be a really interesting one. Now, on the positives, there has been some talk of Moody, who was a guard, who's a super, super strong guy. Apparently, he threw back and pancaked DJ Jones.
Mm.
And DJ Jones is, let's just say that doesn't happen very often. And apparently the news out of camp is that Moody did that in one shot.
Mm.
That was not a push back and forth. That was a one motion up and down.
Oof.
And I think I did mention on one of our earlier pods that Moody's probably the strongest lineman on the Broncos roster, but his arms are quite short. So the challenge that he's had in the past is he's been kind of pushed around by some of the D linemen. But now that the offensive line is going to be more in motion, that helps negate a little bit of that and allows him to kind of showcase what he's really good at, which is just throwing people out of the way.
I call him the T-Rex. That's what T-Rex do.
Yeah.
Get him in there.
And
T-Rex.
And another name to, again, a lot of other fans and whatnot from the other AFC West teams probably may not have heard him yet. We did interview him actually on the MHRT Network in May, and that is Montreal, Washington.
Oh yeah.
He has had a camp. He has just absolutely blown the doors off. He had another touchdown today. He's showing out in the return game. I really do think that he's going to be a name that you may not have heard him yet, but I think you will, and he'll be a surprise to some who don't, pay attention or follow the Broncos. And so for all of you guys, I think he's a name that you should be kind of circling. I think, particularly with Tim Patrick and his injury, I think he's certainly one of the guys that the Broncos will likely turn to, and he is a rookie.
Yeah, you stole my question because I was going to ask you who's going to take Tim Patrick's spot.
Well, I think it'll be a committee at this point unless they make a decision on maybe bringing in a specific offseason acquisition. But I think for now, they're going to be looking at Seth Williams and Montreal, Washington as primaries. And then I think, I'm going to mispronounce his name, but it's like Fulgham or Fugum. I believe.
Fulgham?
Yeah. I believe that he's going to be a guy that'll kind of step into that role as well.
From Mad Dog's favorite division, the Eagles, NFC East.
The best division.
Right.
Love the NFC least.
There you go.
I actually think that that's probably what you're going to kind of start seeing. Seth Williams has a lot to prove. So I think that Williams is probably the guy you're going to see pushed into that role because they want to see what they actually have with him. You can't have three guys that all have the same skill set make the roster and be on the field. You can't have Sutton, Patrick, and Williams all with a very, very similar skill set. So now is Williams' time to show that he deserves to kind of make the roster and do all the things that we thought he could do.
This is a good question. Pono Z actually asked it. Who are each team's surprise UDFAs in camp? Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
I will.
Well, I think the biggest, I don't know if it'd be surprise. I mean, at the start of it, I would have said Justin Ross, but we saw them shut him down for the year.
Right.
I think the biggest surprise has been Jerrion Ely, who I have talked about before on the show. He was an undrafted running back out of Ole Miss. I hyped him up because he was a 5-star recruit and had an offer from every Power 5 in the nation, and just didn't really bring that same flash to Ole Miss. But there's been a lot of preseason talk of him kind of playing a little bit of a hybrid role. He's been taking some reps in the slot, running some routes out of the slot position, as well as running the ball. And he's also, was picked up more so for his kick returning skills. And so I think it's going to be interesting just how they've been implementing him. My mini take has been they're trying to use him how they used Tyreek when they first got Tyreek Hill. Because you recall his first year, he was like a running back and would get like 5 touches a game and would take one for 70 yards. And then they slowly built him into the receiver he is now. Obviously, that's trying to catch lightning in a bottle twice. But I think it's interesting to see that they're kind of doing the same stuff with this guy who's, just a freak athlete. And it just to see how that plays out as the preseason progresses and what kind of role he carves out, if any, for the regular season.
Okay.
Daniel?
We got a UDFA, Darian Butler. This kid is a UDFA, may crack the 53-man roster. He's been balling out in camp. He's been showing out, and it's like, wow, kind of like blow you away kind of player. Like, how did he end up undrafted? We got a guy. I know a guy.
It's crazy how that draft stuff goes, though. Yeah, I had a buddy that was in the draft process, and I mean, he had at least 5 franchises tell him, "We're looking at you in the 3rd to 4th round," and you didn't get picked. it's just crazy that it's just like it's such a crapshoot, and sometimes it's like the higher power gets to say of who they want, and just some guys just fall out.
As a matter of fact, on mine and Captain Jack's channels, we interviewed a Raiders scout who was with the Raiders for 33 years. He was Al Davis's right-hand man and told stories, crazy stories about players that he wanted, and Al went, "No, I'm getting this guy."
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's
towards the end that we paid for decades for those kind of mistakes.
Well, and I mean, it's like similar to, when Gruden was at the helm. I mean, didn't he kind of have sort of priority say over who they control? And I'm sure you had scouts in there saying, "Don't take."
We had Mike Mayock telling him we want this guy, and this guy, and John Gruden overrode him, and we know this. He just won't admit it.
Yeah.
But our 4th and 5th round picks were amazing.
Yeah, because that's where the higher ups and powers that be don't pay attention, so then they leave it to the guys that they pay.
Yeah.
And then that's where you end up with gems that come out 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round, because it's the guys they pay that actually know what they're doing.
Right, like Hunter Renfrow and Max Crosby and guys like that. Nate Hobbs, 4th, 5th round picks. Those are the guys who are balling.
Mm-hmm. Coach, what about you?
Well, I was torn on this one because I was saying in a couple of my Charger videos on my channel that because of the amount of moves that the Chargers made in the offseason, it was going to be really hard for the group class of this year of the UDFAs to make the roster. I think there will be more of a developmental pieces and practice squad players, but there is a guy that we just went undrafted a couple of seasons ago, a guy by the name of Brendan Friocco. He's actually an interior D lineman, is making waves in practice this particular all season. He's been under Joey Bosa's wing for the past couple of seasons and taking a lot from him from an interior pass rush perspective. So he's turning heads. And I thought that it would really be difficult for fringe guys to make. What is that? I saw Chargers immediately.
You know what it says.
Hey, Mundungus, come on, man. You just suspended all 24 of them.
All right, Mad Dog, calm it down. Calm it down over there. But anyway, I think
the best part about that, by the way, was is you were talking, and then it was.
It was a long caption. I saw Chargers in the middle of us. Like, oh, wait a minute. I said, I like, yeah, that's him. That's him. Got to take a jab at me once a stream. That's him. Got to do it.
Not here, so it's got to go to you.
But anyway, yeah, I think Brandon Fiocco has a good shot at making the roster. Maybe supplanting one of the guys that we think is going to make it in the interior lineman perspective, or they just might have to make room for him because he can make a place in the last week and a half. So if that continues, it'll be hard pressed to be a tough decision not to keep him on the 53. So we'll look out for him.
Is that the Hard Knocks kind of the dude that was on Hard Knocks?
That's him. Yeah, that's him. Yep. Mm-hmm.
More like the lightning bolt earrings.
Yeah, he did. He did the haka for LSU.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Creevy actually is the Grand Pumbaa at MHRT Network. He was the guy that was quick on his feet and recreated the stream after the big red button was clicked as our guest was in the middle of speaking. But he is a Broncos fan, and he is part of the MHRT Network. With regards to UDFAs for Denver, though, it's a tough one. We normally always have one or two that really stand out. The only one I can think of is probably Allen, who's an outside linebacker. I haven't heard really highs or really lows, although I actually think that he's probably going to start showing out once preseason starts out, because I think that he's the type of guy that's what you're going to start seeing. Although I also think he's not fully healed yet either, which is probably why you're not hearing as much about him. And then we have a couple running backs that I've heard ebbs and flows come out of a camp on, where, a good play here, a good play there. But we've had such a hit on so many UDFAs in the last 3 to 4 seasons or so.
One of the few
thing
teams
is-
that are good at it.
Yeah, like we're really good at UDFA pickups. Like we just are. That's our thing. That's the Broncos jam is UDFA pickups. And like right now, we didn't let him go, but we had Jonathan Cooper, who we drafted in the 7th round just to make sure we secured him. But he was basically en route to being a UDFA as a pass rush outside linebacker. We have Malik Reed, who's right now outside linebacker, who is a UDFA. And, Shaq Barrett is the one that you probably have all heard of in the NFL. He was on the Broncos as a UDFA pass rusher as well. But this season, we haven't had the same kind of standouts that we've seen yet. But, the night is still young, as they say, and we haven't had preseason. And as a Broncos fan, this happens every year, every season, where we have the one guy that sticks out in, the first, second, or third preseason game, and they almost always end up making the roster. And that's been the story of the Broncos for as long as I've been a fan.
Indeed.
Tito, I am the cheap replacement for Captain Jack tonight because he's traveling to go to the Hall of Fame game.
That is
trolling.
Lieutenant Dan. Lieutenant Dan.
I'm the backup Raider. Next man up. That's me.
Yeah, he got the call as the backup. Second string in terms of
no, the second string guy got injured. I'm third string, man.
Okay.
I'm the Bobby Boucher. Okay.
Yeah, you got a water boy out there running the offense.
He's speeding.
There was a question in there. What do you feel is the weakest part of your team by Jack?
I'm glad you brought that up.
I love that one.
Yeah,
love that one.
I do, and listen, I'm still advocating for Jack to be our topics and
moderator,
and our agenda guy, because he has some of the best topics that questions he brings up in the chat every week. So shout out to
Jack and I do a show together. He's not a content creator, but we do a show together called Dos Pendejos in a Chat Room. And no, seriously, on Friday nights.
I just didn't know, so I have to check that out.
No, Jack has thrown out 3 questions so far this episode, which have been just, a triple or a home run in terms of quality.
Oh, yeah.
And so spectacular questions. Thank you. Keep them coming. How about we start with Daniel, since you and Jack go way back.
Thanks, Jack, you jerk.
Yeah. So where are you at in terms of team and strengths and whatnot?
What is the weakest link?
Yeah. And don't say goodbye at the end.
Right.
I almost did. I thought about it.
I honestly, if I go by last year, I'm thinking our strong safety, Jonathan Abrams. But from what I've heard, he's been improving himself in coverage. So I'm just going to wait and see if that's real. Otherwise, yeah, that's a weak link. Or I'm not going to go with our offensive line because what I've heard is totally opposite of what everybody's chatting about. So there he is. Make me a mod. I love this show. Jack, you prostitute. Anyway, so I honestly think our weakest link is our strong safety at this juncture, but I hope he proves me wrong. That's it.
Okay. It's kind of hard to follow that banner.
Yeah.
Jane, you ignorant slut. You probably don't remember the 70s Saturday Night Live, do you? None of you.
No, but I just feel like I want to call somebody an angry slut now. I just feel it's...
Yeah, no, there's Dan Aykroyd used to say to Jane Curtin, they did the news, Jane, you ignorant slut.
Yeah, that's fitting. That's fitting for somebody I know. Oh, man. So weaknesses. What is your greatest weakness? Sheesh. I mean, I'm going to steal a thunder kind of sort of when the other guys they go behind me, but I'm going to say right tackle at the moment. Right tackle is one of my glaring weaknesses and my glaring concern.
I think a lot of us.
I mean, it's one of those things that the really thing that would probably keep me up at night if I was on the Chargers payroll about what they're going to do. Now they have 3 guys, that are in I guess you can say in battle for the job. Storm Norton, incumbent. Trey Pipkin, 4th round pick from 3 years ago that they picked up, has kind of been bounced around for different positions. He played guard a little bit left tackle. Now he's vying for right tackle. And we also got Jamiri Salyer from Georgia we drafted in the 6th round that's vying for this spot. Now, it is a question of who's the best out of those 3. I mean, I don't have a lot of confidence in Storm based upon his performances last year. And Trey had some decent flashes. I think it was a COVID game that he played in. He did pretty well. He held up pretty well. But again, he wasn't going against Max Crosby or Chandler Jones or somebody of that nature, Chris Jones. He wasn't going against those guys. He was going against.
You're about to not say someone for the Chiefs, huh? You savage.
I said Chris Jones.
You had to think about it.
But you didn't have an edge guy on that side last year that was worth talking about. You do now. So yeah, but but point taken, he wasn't going against elite talent. So that I would say that it's just a question of their athleticism and whether or not they can hold up without help. That's my biggest concern, because you kind of limit your offense when you have to give the right tackle help every play. It lends to taking away a weapon. You got to chip him with a tight end, chip him with a back, things of that nature. So you lose a receiver in the pass game. So if we can get somebody that can hold up well against the elite pass rush that is the AFC West, then I think we'll be better off, and I'll sleep better for Justin Herbert's sake. But yeah, I think that's probably our biggest weakness.
So I have kind of 2 on the Broncos. I truly can't really decide between them because I think they're both going to kind of show up this year. One of them is middle linebacker. I think we have Jonas Griffith, who I'm quite confident in. He's a solid inside linebacker, and if you didn't pay attention to him last year, you really should have. He's right up there. Very athletic, can cover, can do all sorts of things. A bit of a, jack of all trades. Did fairly well against the run stop and was able to kind of chase and cover guys. A little bit raw in certain respects, just because he had just kind of filled into that role and kind of entered into that role late in the season. But I think that he's a guy that we can count on this year. My concern is Josie Jules now our kind of Mike middle linebacker. He only just started for the first year last year to kind of show that he could anticipate to make up for his lack of athleticism. And he did look to be faster last year. So I think that's a good thing, but he got hurt. And then when he got hurt, he was off the field. And now you have to start wondering, and some of the news out of training camp and whatnot is that he is not as fast as he once was. So I do wonder if he's now lost a bit of a step with the injury. I could see that being a challenge again for us. So I'd say middle linebacker. And then the other one that I think is something that we need to be cautious and careful of is the right tackle spot. Until you have one that's proven throughout the season, you don't really have one. And so therefore, you have to go in with some skepticism. And I think much like the other AFC West teams, we didn't truly address it in the offseason. And that's a concern of mine, because you want to have those 2 bookend tackles so that you can then kind of say, all right, the edges in this division are amongst the top in the league. You need to ensure that you can protect those edges and seal those edges. Also in the run game, that's an important thing as well, because when you start kind of down blocking and start to kind of move up, you need those right tackles to help with that. And I think those are the 2 big ones for the Broncos.
Man, fire today.
Oh man, can't say anything about the quarterback.
With my comments done, Alex, over to you.
Yeah. And to answer your question first, Jack, Orlando Brown is not holding out anymore. That was my announcement of the return of the real OBJ to camp. So he's going to play under the tag. He's there ready to get going. Thinking of the biggest weakness with the team, at least at this juncture going into the season, I'm sure you guys want me to say the receiving core or something of that nature, just to kind of feed the narrative you guys have been saying since I've been on this show. I could also say right tackle, but I think given some other people's concerns, I'm not gonna take the cop out. So for me, the biggest weakness, mainly because it's kind of an unknown at this point, would be the secondary. Just because there's so much turnover the Chiefs have, they really only are returning Snead. You lose Matthew. Sorensen's gone, thank God, but he still is out there quite a bit. So to me, that's the biggest weakness and/or concern, is who's going to fill those roles. They had so many free agent signings, drafted, I think four or five guys, and brought in another two and undrafted. So they kind of just have this hodgepodge of people, and they're trying to figure out who's going to fill what role and who's going to plug in where. So, for the sake of considering the question at this stage of the season and in preseason, that would be my biggest weakness with KC, is just because it's so unknown of who's going to fill those voids that left.
Indeed.
I have one question over to Daniel as we kind of near the end of the show here. There has been some rumors of is it Tevin Jenkins being linked to the Raiders?
Yeah.
And those rumors don't seem to be slowing. It's rare for rumors like that to surround kind of New England style run teams just because they're normally tight-lipped. But what do you think about those rumors flying? What do you think about the potential player? And do you think a change of scenery with the Raiders could potentially turn his career around and maybe solidify the right tackle spot in a new team?
Okay, well, my channel. If you've seen it, Richie, I know you've been on there. I'm Raiders history. I'm not big on rumors or anything else. We'll see. Everybody's talking about Ndamukong Suh, Tevin Jenkins, all these guys. We'll see. I don't buy into rumors. If you ain't signed, you ain't a Raider. That's it.
Yeah, well, cut and dry.
I'm sorry, man. That's just, if you ain't a Raider, you ain't a Raider. If you're signed, you're signed. If we sign them, then there must be a reason. If Ziegler and McDaniel think that he's worth having, we'll sign him. If they don't, they don't. Things are different now, man. It's more like corporate. Okay, we ain't the Raiders of old, where we've become more corporate, but at the same time, we got that attitude back. The Raiders are back. Okay, the autumn wind for the last 20 years has been okay. That's the autumn wind for the last 20 years. We deserve. It's our time to get better. Now we're in a division who's all gotten better, except for the Broncos. No, just kidding. Just kidding, man. But
well, OG, it was nice seeing you on the show.
Just kidding, Richie.
Look,
every one of our teams. Let's just put it this way: iron sharpens iron. Whoever comes out on top of this division is going to kill everyone.
Listen, it could legit be 3 teams, maybe 4 in the playoffs.
And we will kill everyone. We will be a lawnmower to these people. Okay, they don't understand. This division is the toughest division. After we all get done beating each other up and fighting for it, whoever comes out on top is going to kill the rest of the NFL because they ain't tough enough to handle this.
The only pushback I have on that is if we play the AFC North, in the kind of back end of the season,
or Buffalo,
but although Buffalo doesn't actually have that type of mauling defense or offensive lines that some of those other teams do, but you typically end up with, say, like, the Ravens, the Browns, and the Steelers typically field some pretty aggressive teams, and they covet those old school style positions like the middle linebacker and the lines. Like they typically covet the trenches effectively. And so that really holds up in the later part of the year. And that's why you typically end up with 1, 2, or 3 of them that typically make the playoffs almost every year, is because they play good football that can last throughout that back portion of the season when it really matters. And they can typically field really good teams. And those types of teams are tough to beat when they're built a certain way. And so I do wonder where that kind of ends up with us and as a collective division, because those types of teams can compete.
Yeah.
I believe iron sharpens iron. You're talking about the Broncos, the Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Raiders, who are all at the fighting with each other. You come out on top of this division, everybody else is a joke. Okay? I don't care if it's Buffalo or Pittsburgh or Tennessee or whoever. And the NFC sucks. They're weak.
Yeah.
Whoever wins this wins,
it's the Rams and
wins
Bucks.
it all.
Exactly.
Whoever wins just wins it all.
The Bucks
And
are
the
in trouble. They
dynasty
lost
is
2 linemen
begin.
already. The Bucks lost 2 linemen already, so they're hurting. So it really could be a 1.5 man race, because I don't believe in the Packers at all. I think they're third fiddle to those top 2 teams. And again, the NFC least, change the channel. In every regard, let's be honest.
Yeah,
Because what if it ends up the Buccaneers? What if it ends up the Buccaneers winning the NFC, right? Their weak division and their weak schedule, and they come up against one of these battle-hardened teams.
Yeah.
NFL's rigged.
They are dropped into a meat grinder.
NFL's rigged for Brady. Is that what you're saying?
Dude, I could do a whole 2-hour episode, draw out my conspiracies on that.
Oh wow.
They started with the Tuck rule, I believe.
Thing going on. Yeah. But I agree. I think that internally each team is really good from a roster perspective, so they'll sharpen each other day to day in practice, and then when you play each other in the division, you're going to get battle tested there as well. So I think we're all in agreement that whoever comes out of the division at the top is going to have a good chance of winning it all. You muted, Richie. You muted.
Richie, you're muted.
The Niners are a halfway decent team too.
But again, Trey Lance. The question mark is Trey Lance. Good system, but I think they only go as far as the quarterback takes them. So if Trey Lance suffers or struggles, then they're not going to be as good.
That's it. And I just think it's tough to just, if they have a good roster top to bottom, but I think it's always tough to just say you totally change the quarterback and it's a guarantee.
Do you think the NFC is even close to strength of the AFC?
No, not at all. No, not at all.
But I also don't think that commenting on one team being strong within a division means that I'm then also commenting on the entire division either. Right? So, you can say the Rams are a pretty strong team, but that doesn't mean you're then saying the entire NFC is a strong team. And then
they went to the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl last year, right?
Yeah.
We beat them.
Yeah. But my point is that just because they're a strong team and a good team doesn't necessarily mean that then means the entire conference, for example, is good, or that even their entire division is good. It just means that you happen to have a couple
compared to our conference.
Yeah. So you're comparing to our conference, and I believe our division within the NFL is the toughest, because I think you have 4 teams that have all elevated themselves in one offseason. In a big way. Yeah. And it's not a small thing either.
No, not at all.
No, our whole division went for it this year. Like, no, let's go all in.
Yeah.
Everybody's throwing chips in the pile.
A whole lot of time saying, hold my beer.
Exactly.
Everybody they went all in on the push the chips to the center of the table. Let's battle it out. And that's how this season will go. When it's done, we're going to be the most battle-hardened division there is. And everyone else that we face in the playoffs, we are going to destroy. And everyone in the NFC, good luck trying to win another Super Bowl for next 10 years.
Well, I think you have the benefit of having a few young quarterbacks within our division as well. Like, Mahomes is still young. Herbert is young. Wilson is aging, but he's still not old.
Well,
and
not
Carr,
standards. Early 30s, not old by.
And Carr is not old either. So I mean, the whole point is that the quarterbacks that we have within our division, they're not like a Tom Brady who's in his 30th year in the NFL and whatnot, right? So I think that's an important distinction to be made from our division and others in the NFL, is that we're not going to be looking for quarterbacks for a while, I think, from what we've seen. And that's a huge thing, because then you can then budget and plan around kind of where you're going as a GM and as a franchise.
Absolutely.
But guys, we have
the hardest fight in our division is amongst ourselves. The hardest fight we take on in the NFL is amongst ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree. And that's going to be, and I think what you're going to start seeing in the offseason with the AFC West is quick pivots, because you're going to start seeing hyper competition within our division. So you're going to start seeing maybe the secondary, for example, the Raiders, is being looked at as a major weakness. So you'll see like 2-3 guys getting traded away. You'll see a couple trades in the draft to kind of bolster the upper and target certain people in the draft to kind of maybe backfill your roster on the secondary. But I think you're going to see that across all teams, because we're going to all try to remain competitive, as you said, for maybe 10 years. And I think that's the only way that we're going to be able to do it, is with kind of short burst moves to try to fill the gaps in terms of where we've fallen down against each other. Because I agree, I think that's where the true competition is going to lie, is amongst our with our 4 teams, as it looks relative to the rest of the division. But guys, I think that's about going to do it for this show tonight. We've had a blast. I know I have.
Yeah.
And we had some great content there from our Jags guest for the upcoming Hall of Fame game. I think that's just great insight to have, knowing what to look for in certain players, concepts, and changes. Yes, even if you are a Raiders fan and just think you're going to win just because they're Jags, I understand. But I think it's important to know where some of their players are and what to look for when you are, in fact, playing an opponent. Not to mention, football's football. That's just fun. So
we need a captain yell from OG before we finish this off, though. It's only fitting.
Yeah.
You know what? The Yarg is his. Okay. I'm gonna do a Raiders chant. Raiders.
There we go.
There it is.
Everyone's got to have their own thing, right?
That
With regards to all the links and stuff, all the links are down below in the description of the videos you're watching. If you can please like, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe. If you didn't get your question asked, drop it down below in the comments so we can see it after the video. We'll try and catch it for next show. We are all on Twitter, I believe. My handle is just below here, and Alex is below his. You could find Coach Defense at Lockdown Defense. It's just Lockdown Defense, right?
Yep. You got it.
And OG, are you on Twitter? Can people find you there?
I don't tweet.
Oh.
I'm on Instagram, though. Black Hole Chronicles. I'm on Facebook.
Black Hole Chronicles.
YouTube.
Chronicles of the Black Hole. I'm on YouTube. Chronicles of the Black Hole. If you like Raiders history, you're going to love what I got. And the interviews that we do with great old Raiders, me and Captain Jack, fun stuff. I want to hear a cheer, each one of you guys' team cheer. I just did mine.
Yeah, I don't do that stuff.
No.
Yar! I'll do that.
I'll say hold up or our new one is bold up or shut up. That's our new one.
Well, anyways, guys, we will see you next Wednesday. You notice how I segued away from that, Daniel. We will see you next Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern Standard. You'll have topics out on Twitter. I will tweet that out. And until next week, next Wednesday, where the West Side is the best side.
The wiki wow.
I hope I lived up to Captain Jack's standards.
You're great, OG.
All right. Thank you very much. See you next week, guys.
Good night.